Hey guys, this is Story, and these are my videos about how to play D&D 3.5 edition. These are videos for beginners, people who have never played before. A lot of my friends, I really wanted to start a campaign, but they've never played, so this is my way of helping them learn since I'm not that great of a teacher on the fly. So I made an outline like my educational classes taught me to do. I have this nice outline over here, and I have a book open here, and I'm going to go over, firstly, what you need to play D&D. First thing you need to do is acquire the player's handbook. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a $40 book, because that's how much these things cost when they were still in print. What you can do, however, to get to where I am, and follow along, is just type in D&D 3.5 Player's Handbook PDF. It will be the first link, and you don't even have to download anything. It's in browser, and ta-da! This big gigantic book, 330 pages. That's a lot of pages. And we're gonna go over how to make a character and the basics of D&D, and help you work through the entire process. Especially if you're new, this may be a little daunting because there's a lot of math involved. The next thing you'll need is a character sheet. This is where you put all your information. And all I did to get to here is type in 3.5 character sheet. And it's like, oh, you mean D&D? Like, yes, I do mean D&D. There are two versions here. There's one that was made later that's newer. It has more information, more spots, and more space for you to write things down. It's like 3 pages rather than 4 pages rather than 2 pages. This is the original one. This is the one I like. As you can see, it's a lot more compact. It doesn't give you as much room to write things down. So a lot of people prefer this version because it has more of the new skills that were added. Look at all them skills. And it has more space to write things down, especially for spellcasters. It has all the area for the gears and a place to keep all your experience tallied. So if you want something that has a lot more space, information like this, you can go with this. I don't care which one you use. I can read them both. I prefer this one because it's what I started with, and I think it's a little neater, but it's whatever. Whichever one you prefer. Whenever I'm going over things, I will be using this one. So if you want to follow along with either or, they both have the same things on them. And if you have a question for me about something that's on one character sheet but not on the other, you can just ask me once we get to that point in the comments, or just message me on Skype if you know me personally because you love me. And I will answer those questions for you. As you can see, there's a lot of options here. Wow, you're like, some of these I understand, especially if you're an RPer. There's character name, player, class and level, race, size and age and gender and all these things you fill out in MRP, and wow. But then there's a bunch of other stuff that usually games do for you, like there's a place for HP, and you're like, armor class? What's armor class? I don't even understand. And then there's all these abilities and all these skills, and what the hell do reflex and will and fortitude mean, and what's a base attack bonus, and grapple, what? There's a modifier for that? Yes, and it's fantastic. Take a step back. We're going to go over what is D&D. And luckily, this fancy book is super awesome and describes everything on page 4. So if you want to read along with me, or if you want to just listen, that's fine too. I'm going to go ahead and read what they write about D&D, and then kind of emphasize on it and explain it in my own way. This is the Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game. The game that defines the genre and has set the standard for fantasy role-playing for more than 30 years. This game is really old. D&D is a game of your imagination in which you participate in thrilling adventures and dangerous quests by taking on the role of a hero, the character you create. Your character might be a strong fighter, a clever rogue, a devout cleric, or a powerful wizard. With a few trusted allies at your side, you explore ruins and monster-filled dungeons in search of treasure. The game offers endless possibilities and a multitude of choices. More choices than even the most sophisticated computer game, because you can do whatever you can imagine. That is the selling point of this game, ladies and gentlemen. It is not constricted by any in-game rules. It is, yes, we want to be Windows Basic. Stupid computer. I want to be basic. It is the epitome of creativity. You can be anything you want to be. You can make anything you want to make, and you can do anything you want to do. It is a role-playing game at its heart. It is meant for people who love to make characters and make stories and do this together, which is why I am making this video and recommending it to my friends, because it's a lot of people have different ideas about what role-playing is, and especially when it comes to combat, people have trouble a lot of times just typing it out. This game has a built-in combat system, and it has its own stories, its own quests that revolves around you and your characters, rather than like an MMO where you're just, everybody does the same quests, and they're not personalized for you. Or in like a fantasy RPG where you're playing a character somebody else made, and you're going through their story that's personalized for them. D&D takes the characters that you make and you customize, and everything is personalized for you and your party, which is what makes it the best RPG ever. It's something that video games and computers haven't been able to do yet, and they strive to be more and more like this, especially, with more recent games. The next part it says, the D&D game is a fantasy game for your imagination. I like the way they describe it here. It is part acting, part storytelling, part social interaction, part war game, and part dice rolling. That is D&D. It is storytelling in a game. And if you love role-playing, you love fantasy, and you love storytelling, you are going to absolutely adore D&D. As soon as you get past all of the nitty-gritty stuff and the numbers and the dice, especially if you raid in WoW, or if you really look into the numbers in League of Legends and you're like calculating percentages and trying to max out the best possible thing for your character, this will come naturally once you know the rules, because it's just that kind of game where if you really want to get into maxing out your character, which I never did, you can do that. You can abuse the system. My first group was a group of abusers, and they would pull out the DMG and the player's handbook all throughout the session and compare rules, and we spent 2 of the 3 hours just arguing about who was wrong and who was right. So I had a lot of really good teachers as far as rules go. But this tutorial is going to focus more on the character creation and then get into the math and the ability scores and things like that, because I don't want people to get overwhelmed and think, oh, that's so much stuff, I don't understand. So I want you to see what the game is before we get in there and we say, these are the numbers, because that'll drive you crazy. I made a note over here about dice. Everything in D&D revolves around dice. Dice determine your attacks, your success with skill-related tasks, and even your base abilities. Although this may seem unfair at first, being dice are entirely chance and random happenstance, you can't control what your dice lands on. The game has little nuances to balance rolls and their success based on what you decide your character is. So your class and your race and the skills you pick and where you put your numbers initially all help determine what you're good at. And you can't be good at everything, at least not at first level. So you'll have to pick and choose and customize your character according to what you want. So let's see. Well, I don't have all these funny dice that I've heard so much about. That's fine. Guess what? There's an online dice roller. It's fantastic. All you gotta do is type in dice roller, and then is the first one, and you click it, and it says So let's go over this. You got all these dice here, and you say, oh, a D4. What's that mean? A D4 is just a dice, but it has 4 sides. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4. Same with the 6-sided dice. Those are the things you get like Monopoly or the little games that, dice that normal people use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there's an 8. And then there is a 10. You have percentage dices, a 12-sided dice, and a d20, which is what you will be using the majority of the time. Most of these other things, percentages, are usually for me. I'm not sure. I think there's a class somewhere that uses them. D12s are for dragons. A lot of their attacks are on D12s. And most people, your attacks like for daggers are D4s or D3s. I can't remember. And then there is no D3 here. Bizarre. And then I think long swords are like D8s. So a lot of these dice are used for your attacks and to test skills and stuff like that. And we'll be going all over that later. But you will need to know where to get to the dice roller. We will be using the in-game dice roller on D20, the D20 website. Or Roll20, excuse me. So you're going to go to Google and type in Roll20. And it's the first thing here. Let me click on this. And it's like, huh. Well, in this website, which I'll go over later, it's what I'll be using for my campaign. It has a built-in dice rolling system where everybody can see your rolls, so you can't cheat. So if you roll in the chat window, it'll pop up and do the formula for you, and it'll say, you got a this. So everybody will be able to see what you rolled. There's no cheating or no questioning about what you actually rolled. Because I remember back in the day in the table, people would roll things and we'd be like, I think that kind of hit the crack. Maybe you should roll again. Okay, so let's get down to it. D&D is basically, as it says here, one player is the dungeon master. That is me. The DM, as abbreviated, controls the monsters and enemies, narrates the action, referees the game, and sets up the adventure. Together, the Dungeon Master and the players, you guys, make the game come alive. So I make the story, the world, and I kind of drive things along. If you want to talk to an NPC, you talk to me. If you want to buy something at a shop, you talk to me. If you want to explore an area or observe something, you ask me, what does it look like and what do I see? Basically, everything that would normally actually be able to be seen in a video game or where you look around and you try to find clues. Since we're not in a video game, it's all our imagination, somebody has to control that world or it would get all disorganized. So this is what the DM does. They mandate the world, and that makes, sometimes they're called God, and it's where I got the nickname Tyrant, which none of you know me by, but that's okay. I was very relentless to people who joked around and tried to screw with my story and didn't pay attention, so let's not do that. I blew up some people. It's nothing important. Really, it's fun. The Dungeons & Dragons game is a game of imagination, but it is also a game of tactics and strategies. Combat is turn-based, and we will be going over that later in another video. So don't worry about the combat right now. Don't worry about what your weapons are and what you need to pick. Just worry about right now focusing on a story, character creation, races, and things like that. We'll go over those first, and then we'll go over all the things that have to do with combat. Of course, as soon as I muted my mic, I no longer needed to sneeze. So that is D&D in its essence. It is a big, giant role-playing game. And, you can see this book is gigantic. It's 330 pages. It's a novel. And you can see this text is really small. Look how small this text is. Oh my god. Well, the pages in this book they're like 8.5 by 11 or something. I don't know. They look like 8 by 10. But they're big pages, so you can imagine 330 pages with that small of text. Well, there's pictures, but and lots of charts. So it's a lot of information, and that's why I'm making these videos, because I don't want my friends and I don't want anybody else who wants to learn how to play D&D, who might come across my weird ass videos, to be deterred from playing D&D because of the volume of the player's handbook. It is a lot to take in, which is why I'm making these videos. I hope you're still interested. The next video will go over ability scores. So please stick with me and watch the next video.